Hi, I'm McKenna and this is Simplicity and a Starter. Today we are making Cinnamon Toast Crunch cereal, but with a sourdough twist. You guys are gonna love this recipe. It is so easy to make, it's sweet and crunchy, and all you need are 7 ingredients. So grab your sourdough discard and let's get started. First, you're gonna wanna preheat your oven to 350 degrees. Now we're gonna prep the topping for our sourdough cereal, cinnamon sugar. So I'm gonna use my kitchen scale, and you are going to add 110 grams of sugar or a half a cup. Off by 1. Just kidding, perfect. Then add 6 grams or 1 tablespoon of cinnamon. Give that a little whisk and set that aside for later. Now for the cereal dough. I personally love using a food processor for this part. You can do it by hand with a pastry cutter as well. To save on some dishes and some time, I'm going to use my kitchen scale, but you can absolutely use cups as well. First, you're gonna add 220 grams or 1.5 cups plus 1 tablespoon of all-purpose flour. Now, just for a touch of sweetness in the cereal, we are going to add 55 grams or 1/4 cup of sugar. Again, the star ingredient, cinnamon. We're gonna add another 6 grams or a tablespoon. For a little bit of contrast, we're gonna add 3 grams or 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Before we give this a mix, we're gonna add 113 grams or 1/2 cup of unsalted butter. I just gave it a rough chop. This can help you, especially if you are using a pastry cutter as well. Mix this on high until the butter forms into pea-sized pieces. Here are the pea-sized pieces that you're looking for. Next, we're going to be adding our sourdough discard. Discard is unfed or inactive sourdough starter. However, you can use active starter for this recipe. Just make sure it's the same in grams. I'm going to add 120 grams or 1/2 cup of sourdough discard. Last but not least, we're going to add 4 grams or 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. We're gonna cover it again and give it another mix until the dough forms. After 30 seconds, if you notice that the dough is still looking a little dry, add a tablespoon of water and mix until the dough forms. Dump out the dough onto your workspace and form into one smooth dough ball. Roll again to make 2 dough balls. Now we're going to roll out the dough into a large rectangle. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you want it to be nice and thin. The thinner the dough is, the crispier and crunchier the cereal is. Every once in a while, I like to flip the dough over just to make sure that it's not sticking to my work surface. I may even add a little bit more of a dusting to the countertop, again, so it doesn't stick. Another way that you can roll out this dough for an even faster method is to use a pasta maker. That will make it nice and thin and even more consistent. This sourdough recipe is in honor of my husband. If he could say so, cereal would be a food group. He absolutely loves it. And if you were to come over to our house, you'd probably find about 4 open cereal boxes in our pantry. But Cinnamon Toast Crunch cereal is one of his favorites, so of course I had to make a sourdough version. Once your dough is nice and thin, we're going to carefully transfer it to a piece of parchment paper on a baking sheet. You can keep the dough just like this. I'm gonna go for a more consistent look and trim off the edges. No sourdough cereal wasted. Now for the toppings. We are going to first brush some melted butter. I melted 56 grams or 1/4 of a cup of butter. Remember, we have 2 batches, so use about half. Brush a nice even layer of butter all over the dough, and this helps that cinnamon sugar stick to the cereal while it is baking. After we're done with the butter, now we're going to add our cinnamon and sugar on top. Sprinkle generously, and remember, we have 2 batches, so use about half. Then I like to just use my hand and spread it evenly. And for the final step, we're going to cut our sourdough cereal. Now you can be super exact using a ruler so that you have all those perfect little squares, or eyeball it and call it a day. It's all gonna taste delicious. You can use a sharp knife, or a pizza cutter is another great option. To make sure each piece is nice and crunchy, I like to spread them out so that the heat can access all of the edges. Now that your oven is preheated to 350, pop these into the oven for 15 to 20 minutes or until nice and golden brown and crunchy. And just like that, you have sourdough cinnamon toast crunch cereal. Now for the true test, the crunch test. I let these sit out for about 10 minutes because as they cool, they are going to get more crunchy. Perfect. I could honestly just eat these plain. They're buttery, sweet, and that cinnamon is just so warm and delicious. Who wouldn't want to start their day off with this delicious cereal? Even though this is absolutely delicious with a bowl of milk, this is as good just eaten plain like a snack. Or if you're feeling really crazy, put this on top of some vanilla ice cream. Now we're talking. I hope you enjoy the sourdough cinnamon toast crunch cereal as much as my husband does. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!